What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and once again I'm here with
Gershwan
to bring you guys another episode of For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. This question comes from Damian Henderson. Is chaos worship actually allowed in in Tau space as long as it doesn't affect the greater good? That's a good question because it brings us into like religious freedoms in the Tau Empire.
Mm-hmm. And for the most part, yeah, whatever you believe in, whatever you choose to spend your time doing, it's cool as long as it doesn't interfere with the greater good. Because a lot of WAAAGH, which are imperial humans who have dedicated themselves to the Tau Emperor or Tau Empire, still believe in the Emperor.
Yep. So you can still worship the Emperor of Mankind within the Tau Empire.
Mm-hmm.
You're still feeding the Emperor, like in terms of the psychic presence and everything. But when it comes to chaos, you specifically state it's not affecting the greater good. If it's not affecting the greater good, then yes, you can continue to worship Slaanesh, Khorne, Gnurgle, whatever it may be.
Right. But if you start to worship them enough to where you're creating cults and you're sacrificing like Tau to them, then that's an issue.
Yep. And then the same can be said about Gene Stealer cults.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing the only thing about like all of this is that if the Tau Empire has developed a understanding of how these cults end up, there could be a blockade. Kind of like, I think in the US, we know what a cult looks like, and there are laws to prevent these cults from doing certain things because we know that the end outcome is terrible for everybody involved. So it'll be kind of the same situation in the Tau Empire, I'm guessing, where like we know where the worship of Slaanesh ends up, and nobody wants anything in their butts. So stop.
Well, hold on. I need to get me a prostate exam.
But yeah, so the same can be said about like every single worship, even like Necron cult worship, which would be kind of cool. You know that like in today's day and age, there are still people that worship the Egyptian gods. And you know like the theme of the Necrons is the Egyptians. So like I thought that was interesting that there's still people worshiping the Egyptian gods. But yeah, that usually tends to be monitored. And if it gets to a certain point, the Tau Empire does its Tau Empire thing, which is what any empire would do.
Yeah.
And say, stop.
Look, Jerry, I understand you've done a lot for the Tau Empire, but this is the third time your tentacles have done some stuff to a few people who didn't want stuff to be done to them.
Yep.
And then you don't see Jerry anymore.
This question comes from All Might. If the two of you switched armies, who should win?
Probably this guy.
No, dude, if you played my Speed Freak army, you would win. I am convinced that it is my army list that makes me win. It is not the actual, like...
tactics.
Yeah, maneuverability and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know, because like, I feel like no matter what army I play, I'm still going to roll crappy.
That's because you usually play elite.
Yeah. Well, I guess obviously rolling that many dice, I'm bound to get
hits. Because
and
you roll fewer dice than your opponent.
True. 40K, a game of more dice equals wins.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the struggle with the meta in 40K, or not the struggle, but I think it actually helps 40K, is that the super top tier lists are ignored by the majority of the players. We're in there for the fun of the game. Not
the
actual,
rule of
like,
cool
winning.
wins out.
Exactly.
Doesn't
Same
mean
with D&D, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, oh, humans are really good. They get a +1 bonus right off the bat. But who wants to play a human?
I want to play a dwarf.
A mini human.
I want to be able to drink all I can and not get drunk.
Facts. D. Rich, is there a particular way you guys answer these questions? I've asked one on here multiple times and never got selected. Do I need to do something in particular? Please explain the rules of the game in your video. We do at the beginning of every video, where you guys put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. But this was the exception because you, sir, did not put question in front of your questions. And this was your one and only chance to get a question asked. And this was the question you asked.
What a failure. Go back to whatever army you played and just ship it to us. You lost your army. But no, I think that when you ask a question and it's shorter, like if you... The less words you use to ask the question, the more likely it's going to get answered. Because when we're going through the questions and we see a question that's like a sentence as opposed to a question that's a paragraph, I'm going to read the one that's a sentence.
Every once in a while we get the paragraphs, but it's like we could have answered 3 questions in the time it took us to answer your one.
Yeah, or like if we're answering a paragraph question, the answer might be quick, but the paragraph itself is like 2 minutes long. Nobody wants to sit there and listen to us read. They already know that we suck at reading from the 40 Facts videos. They just want to get to the main point.
All right. So, D. Rich, maybe you won, maybe you lost, because at the end of the day, you got us to answer your question. Is that a win? But maybe this wasn't the question you wanted answered. So is that a loss? Either way, to the next question.
This one comes from Damned Legion. This is kind of different. Could a Black Shield still be alive since the Horus Heresy? It could be if they enter the warp and then they exit out of the warp at a different time. Also,
Trazian's vaults might have one.
Yep, and kind of in the similar aspect, what is it called? Like the hyperbolic time chamber where it freezes time.
Oh, a stasis chamber.
Yeah, like a stasis chamber, which has occurred in the history of 40K.
That's how Gilliman didn't die from being poisoned by Fulgrim.
Right, yeah. It can.
I mean, look at Gilliman now, walking, talking, having his way with Yvrain and all these Eldar.
And having a side piece, a Shadow Sun, because he's really into noses.
Yvrain has a nose.
Well, that's why he did it with her.
Magashi Saizen. Y'all really need to clean and dust off that studio. Garsh 1 has been coughing and sneezing for years, way before Nurgle released COVID-19. Maybe Garsh 1 has been corrupted all this time.
I had a chronic cough for a really long time, and I don't blame the room that I was sleeping in, because technically I wasn't sleeping in the same room back then. I blame human biology. I just have inferior genetics. So yeah. But yeah, I'm not going to clean this room. This room will never be vacuumed.
Because you might be vacuuming bits that you might need.
No, I know I'm going to be vacuuming bits that I might need. They're in the carpet.
The point is, like, did I step on a bit, or is that a chicken wing?
It's a chicken wing. This question comes from Dan D16. Do blanks dislike other blanks like regular humans do? Probably. It's like if you have somebody with a really shitty attitude and they come across another person with a really shitty attitude, they don't become friends, they become enemies. Sometimes.
Yeah. This question is by Gideon Kreider. What do you think of this scenario? A jump in time to chaos invading Terra. Fulgrim with his Emperor's children march towards the Golden Throne. As all hope seems lost, the sky of Terra burns with holy radiance as beams of light fall onto the planet, and a large blast lands before Fulgrim. His sons rising from holy flames, and then a voice booms out, "Abomination," as a dreadnought bearing the sun's mark reveals himself, with Fulgrim being reminded of his greatest defeat.
Lysander coming back? That'd be badass.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Dreadnought Fulgrim. Or not Fulgrim,
Ferrous Menace. That could be another thing, too. Yeah, that would be really... Well, I mean, but Fulgrim didn't wasn't defeated. Either way, it would be badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like Ferrous Menace would be fighting Demon Fulgrim, not Fulgrim.
Right.
Maybe that's his way of... you have to kill the demon to save your friend. And he's doing it after death.
Yeah. I think it would be a really cool story. And it's a story that should be covered by GW in later times, because I think right now everybody's kind of hyped up with like Sanguinius coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Fulgrim and Ferris. I ship it.
Yeah. Next question.
This one is by Simon Tice. If only one Primarch had turned traitor as opposed to 9 of them, who would it most likely have been? Horus? Or no?
Lorgar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would happen if the Inquisition found heresy within the High Lords of Terra? Would they act on it? And if they did, wouldn't it cause a civil war?
They're pretty strategic on the way that they enact war. I think because there's so much autonomy within the Inquisition, each Inquisitor kind of watches the other Inquisitors back and is like, hey, if you're about to kill that High Lord, which we all know is corrupt, you're going to do this. That's going to cause this, and it's going to create a civil war. So how about you do this, this, and this? So, like, there's checks and balances in autonomy within the Inquisition.
Or it's like, here, let's plant this chaos cult and have an assassin take him out and put the blame on the cult.
Right.
Yeah. There's ways around it.
This next question comes from Reject X7. With Valentine's Day coming up, I got to know, Demon versus Marines, is that a cuter couple or Demon and a cultist?
I feel like demon and occultist, because like cultists look up to like the demons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like that whole like sensei teacher type thing.
And I think that really exemplifies what you like in the bedroom. Are you a dom or a
sub?
And depending on what your option is, you would think that one is cuter than the other. Demon versus Marine is like two heads butting. So two doms trying to like fight for control during Valentine's Day on a bed that's like really wet and like just sweat.
I was thinking of that scene with Homelander and what's that girl's name?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
No, but even that's like a sub dom thing.
Well, they were taking turns being sub and dom because they messed up that room.
You know what? Then maybe I don't know what you're talking about. What season is that? Is that the second season?
Yeah. Did you not see the second season?
I don't think I have.
Oh.
Damn, you spoiled it for me.
Spoiler alert. I'm not talking about spoilers on cars.
But yeah, it really depends. It depends on what you're into, and what position you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Power bottom all the time.
This one is by Revenant 666. It's like 36. Mafia. Has the Imperium or any other faction attempted to copy or nullify the Orcs' reality warping powers? Yeah. I think the whole, like, what are those, the Orc fighters are? Like, they basically kind of do that.
The Orc fighters?
Yeah, the ones that, like, are able to use Orc weapons even though they shouldn't.
Oh, yeah, the headhunters.
There you go.
Yeah. The Orc headhunters a little bit, yeah, from Armageddon.
Same thing with Yarick.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so in minuscule senses, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Minuscule.
This question comes from Slatmir Kradstev. Who is the more powerful Psyker, Malkador or Magnus? Before his ascension to demonhood. Magnus.
And yeah, I'd have to say Magnus, because I think Magnus was number 2. It was like the Emperor, Magnus, and then Malkador.
Yep.
Erza Swan. Which legendary characters have you used on the tabletop that just outright got killed by your friends? Gilliman, for sure. I thought Gilliman was like this invincible Primarch, just like in the lore, and I put him in the front of my army, and he got shot to pieces.
Yep.
There was also a time back in 5th edition, I believe, I was using Mephiston, which is like a really strong Psyker, and my buddy had a Tervigon who he was really proud of because he just like finished building it, and he's like, oh, I can birth a bunch of Termagons, it's really strong. And at the time, Mephiston had like an insta-kill ability, and as long as I hit and wounded, it didn't matter how many wounds you had, it just died. And that happened, and I felt really bad.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had that situation happen to me, just because I usually always have 2 of like the HQs that I need.
Mm-hmm.
So like 2 weird boys. I never really like buff up a mech or a war boss.
You've never used Gaskell?
Nope, never. But even he can't die in 3 until third 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
he can only lose like 4 wounds per turn or per phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I've never had that. I've had experiences where like my tank busters have died on the first turn, and then I'm just kind of like, oh fuck. But what I learned from that is just buff up the other units. Mm-hmm. So now every unit has rockets.
Rockets are scary.
They are. This next question comes from Warsmith Gauze. If you were to operate a tank, which role would you prefer, driver or gunner?
I think it's cooler to be gunner, but I think I'd rather be the driver.
I think that really depends on like whether you're a dom or a sub. No, yeah, that's a tough one.
Because with like the gunner, you have to like load it, take out the shell, put in, or like move it to where you need to, make sure the trajectory is right, take in all these outside forces such as like wind, the movement of where the enemy's going to be going. But at the same time, the driver has to accommodate for all that.
I think the driver has more responsibility, whereas the gunner is more just like killy type of mentality. Kind of, because you still have to worry about, like, if you miss, then the driver has way more pressure on him. But for the most part, I think I would go with my mind says gunner, my heart says driver. Because I would rather die because of my own fault than because of the gunner's dumbass who missed. Yeah.
It's like, bro, I gave you the perfect shot. Like,
you didn't take it. Yeah. Where, like, if we died, then that's okay. Because it's not my fault that we died. It's his fault.
Yeah. Or it could be like the driver got stuck and then we just got mobbed.
Yeah. Then in that situation, then it is my fault. But that's the point. Like, I always want the fault to either come to me wholly or none. Kind of. Yeah.
I can see it. But in war, like...
Yeah.
Or you could just do both. Be like that Hammerhead tank ace, long strike.
Yeah.
Where he drives, takes in all the combat drugs, and shoots all at once.
Yep.
But they got like AI helping them, so...
It's a little different.
Un poquito. This is by Raleigh Terrace 777. If the Tyranid acquires genetic seeds from Primaris, does that Tyrant Guard still the same thing as one from Astartes seeds? So when a Space Marine dies and the genetic makeup gets taken by the Tyranids, sent to the Hive Mind, and then it creates Hive Guard, I would assume that if that happened with a Primaris Marine, which is like a step above a regular Space Marine, the Hive Guard, they'll still be Hive Guard, but they'll probably have like tougher armor or something like that.
I agree, yeah. I think the improvement would be like...
minuscule.
Right. Yep.
Is that the word of the day today?
It is the word of the day. That and Dom and Sub. What are you? Comment down below.
I'm neither. I'm just minuscule.
This question comes from The Outsider. If Cthulhu existed in the 40K universe, would he be a chaos god? Obviously.
Yeah. It's just the introduction, or it could be the introduction of a new god outside of chaos. Kind of like Gork and Mork.
It's true.
Because we don't really have that many of those in the 40K universe.
No. Of like entities that exist but don't really exist. Yeah.
Because the only thing I could think of is Gork and Mork. Because everything else is just chaos.
Well, and like they have an avatar.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Last question.
We did that one already.
Oops. This one comes from Ursa Swan. Which legendary character have you used in the tabletop that you just outright got? Oh, well, we already
did that one. Nico Tugas. Have you guys seen that newest Total War trailer? And what are your thoughts? So Total War is essentially like Dawn of War, but for Warhammer. Like just Warhammer, not 40K.
Yeah.
It looked cool. Like I really like the animations for like when they were showing chaos and stuff like that. And that's pretty much the only part I liked. I mean, it looked interesting, yeah, but like, I just feel like they show cool and interesting animations of like that one where it was like the Cadians against the Death Guard. That looked pretty cool. Yeah. And it's like, why can't they just do like a series or like some more animations of like badass stuff like that? And it's like they can do it when they try, but it's like always for like trailers for something else.
Yeah. And as far as the game, I don't think like I would ever play it just because I'm not into fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it does look badass, it is like that cool, like building your army and then like sending them a certain direction.
I mean, we played Dawn of War back in the day, and that was fun.
Yeah. I do like the fact that it is one charge, kind of. I do like the concept of like Total War being a more like you tell your army where to go, so it's one charge, and then you take it from there. Whereas like Dawn of War was different. Like you would have multiple charges because you could send in your scarabs first, and then you send in something else later. And by later, I mean like minutes later, not just right there and then on the one battlefield. Or like, meet them up at this strategic point as opposed to this strategic point because you have the upper ground there and stuff like that. But
you had the high ground.
The high ground. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anakin.
Yeah. Sub and Dom.
That's right.
And those are the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. Talk to you tomorrow.
As always, I've been the Sound Alchemist.
Gersh1.
And we are out.
Always used to put my freedom first.